One of the things that we've discovered with respect to remote workforces these days, due to the COVID pandemic, is that there's so much work to do, and yet so many of us have been locked down and unable to get to the field. We've been unable to cross the borders. We've been unable to really conduct work the way that we would like to normally conduct work. But there's been some tremendous opportunities in that as well, in that we've really had to look carefully at how to maximize our time, how to work more collaboratively with each other. And if anything, it's really given us an excellent opportunity to transform the way that we do work through whether we want to call it digital engineering or digital twins or along those lines, but essentially how to do what we promised to do, which is rapidly map and manage data for public works. Now, we've been in business nearly 30 years now, and we focused on public works. I mean, we absolutely adore the provision of field services, to maximise the value of assets, the lifetime of assets, to really, I guess, if anything, we're spatial auditors. We like to help our customers from the early days of amalgamations, when we went from 280 councils in Victoria to 78, and in that process, people realised they didn't know what they owned. They didn't know where it was. They didn't know what condition it was in. It was very difficult to conduct audits, to value, to depreciate, and actually to then justify, maintenance around that kind of framework too. So we live for rapidly capturing information. We're going to share with you some practical insights about, asset feature extraction as sort of like a new frontier. It's not easy, but it's also not hard if you really set your mind to it. So in terms of the last image I was showing, is that there's practical and easy ways to actually not only capture 360-degree imagery, but to understand that as we go along the roadway, we can share a unique virtual experience with others. So in that space, we can actually look at information as a way of capturing data once, but using it for many, many purposes. So by having that seamed 3D, view, we can actually find better ways to capture information, share information, create GIS data, and create information that can go into asset management systems, where every pixel in the image is its own three-dimensional, accurate, precise location. There's a lot of challenges out there for road management, but we certainly have room for improvement. So one of the key areas, of course, is, dealing with things, working safely along the corridor, working remotely together, working collaboratively, monitoring pavement condition, dilapidation, verification and validation of, accurate asset registers. I mean, things are changing all the time, but in this COVID world, what will be normal? One of the great advantages is, of course, risk management, disaster management, the asset inventories that we can create for asset, a faster way for asset data capture in terms of these sort of linear objects that we're servicing, pavement management, contractor monitoring, line marking, signage, traffic controls, generating the road management plans with some confidence. If we capture this once, great data in 360 degrees, and we share it with each other, we're actually also putting a foundation behind intelligent transport systems and a better way to share that information, so that you've got driver-assisted systems made available, in the new Tesla cars, etc. So if you look at the fire image here, and we've been working with fire and emergency services organisations since the early 90s. We wrote the first fire mapping software in the world using GPS, and in those days, people couldn't even spell GPS. But you look at the barriers there, you look at the effect that fire can have on roads, on fences, on barriers, on bollards, on signage, on vegetation, and the risks. But in addition, we have issues in terms of floods and other types of storm damage that can occur. So if you're actually able to travel along the roadways, and capture that 360 image and intelligence, then when this is just 2021, the images I've shared with you in the previous screen for fire and this screen for flood, this is all this year and late last year. So how do you reach out and access some of that disaster funding? The only way to do that is through actually evidence-based data capture, something geospatial along the roadways that can help you to justify. I mean, you look at the amount of flooding here. I mean, along the roadways, along the streets, affecting every property, it can't help but cause a lot of damage along the roadways. How do you manage that in the post-disaster scenario?